Hi, welcome to Geography 151, Digital Earth. This is the first class in the three-course sequence that ends in a less than 1 year certificate in GIS. The second class is GIS1 or GIS 245. The third class is GIS 2 or GIS 246, and they're offered sequentially winter and spring. So I want to go over the syllabus. I want to talk about kind of the class expectations and how the class will run. Right now, this is being offered through this Moodle website to online students that are enrolled in the class and to the face-to-face class students. So everybody's kind of in one place. Everybody will access their labs, their quizzes through this site, and they will be able to turn in information that way. So let's just start with the syllabus. And every time I do this, I find errors that I have to fix. So if you download the syllabus after seeing this presentation, you may see things that are a little bit different. So anyway, my office hours are Monday, Wednesday, 9 to 10, Tuesday, Thursday, 11:30 to 12:30. The GIS class is offered on Tuesday, Thursdays from 9 to 11:20, so I'll be in there right after that class. The best way to reach me is not through my Lane email, but I am required to put that on the syllabus. The best way to reach me is through Moodle messaging, and I'll show you where that is in a little bit. There are 3 assignments due this week. The first 2 assignments are due on Friday. The third assignment is due on Monday, and that assignment must be in or I have to drop you. It's just it's a crazy way to do this because you really have to do the first introductory assignment before you can really do Lab 1, but I'm trying to give people as much time as I can for them to submit that work this week. This class is presented with lectures if you're in class, video lectures if you're taking this online, and weekly labs, and then the last half of the class there is 2 labs a week that are due, and I think the due dates are like Thursday and then the next Monday or Tuesday. So we'll look at that in a minute when those due dates are coming up. What I really want you to be able to do when you finish this class is to have a solid understanding of some of the basic concepts in geographic mapping, and that would be scale, location. Location is looking at latitude and longitude or UTM coordinates. Understanding how data on a map is tied to location. Elevation, that's kind of the X, Y, and Z aspect of looking at maps and looking at data. And then how that information is used to solve problems, to visualize concerns, to understand the world spatially. We're going to be looking at data, what creates good data. We're going to be using ArcGIS Online, which is an ever-emerging, evolving technology. We're going to use Google Earth and some GPS or phone apps to collect data. When you get done with this class, I want you to be able to critique a map and understand whether it's clear, have they violated the basic ideas of cartography. We're going to collect data in a couple other ways, and if we have some time, we may talk about ethics in GIS. There is no text. I've provided PDF readings each week in a reading folder for you. You will need a copy of the Eugene East topographic map, and specifically this map, the 1986 copy. I have printed copies for you, or you can download the PDF, which I will put on, let me write that down myself, upload PDF. which I will put on Moodle and take that file to Kinko's and get them to make a copy for you if you're not local. You can order it from the USGS store. I would do that sooner than later, and I'm not sure which is cheaper. Picking it up from me is cheaper, but I don't know if Kinko's is cheaper or if the USGS store is cheaper, but you will need a copy of this map. I also recommend that you have a robust flash drive, and sometimes the little cheap flash drives that you buy are going to crash on you and you lose stuff. So spend a little money on a flash drive. Make sure you have, gosh, I used to say 2 gigabytes. I see that's here. That's probably minimal. I am sort of a data hog, and I like to find data that maybe I'm not going to use for an assignment, but I might use later. So I like a lot of storage space. And the bookstore used to sell some flash drives called Titan USB drives, and they were notorious for frying. And so I've just not used those. Sometimes things with logos, people buy them cheap and get the logo put on. But I would look for something, a ScanDisk, Lexar, Seagate, Logitech, some kind of more brand name. We're going to use on a couple assignments a decimal inch ruler. So it's a ruler that's just divided into 10 sections. This makes looking at scale and looking at remote sensed imagery really easy. I'll have a paper copy up if you don't find one, but it might be something that you want to own anyway. They're pretty useful. So if you have recently added the class, you may not know this, but you have to have a Windows operating system to run the software that we're using in the last part of the class. In fact, a Chromebook will not allow you to do any of the work in this class except maybe the first 2 weeks. So if you have a Mac, you can have a what's it called, boot camp or Parallels installed and install the Windows operating system, and then you'll be able to install the software that we're going to use, which is ArcGIS. I have not been successful doing that on my own. I had somebody do that for me and it worked fairly well, but it can be a little glitchy. So if you have a PC running Windows, you're probably in good shape. Windows 10 doesn't always play well, but we can work around that. I have probably 5 laptop computers that can be checked out. 5 left. I've already got a couple people have reserved them. So if you do not have access to a PC, come and see me, Monday or Tuesday, and we'll try to get you taken care of. And they are kind of first come, first serve. All right. The other option is that there will be open lab hours in the GIS lab that you can come in and do your work. So, this is a 5-credit class, so generally students should be spending 5 hours a week in class, and then a couple more hours, 2 or 3 hours for homework. So, and because it's a lecture lab class, often students are able to finish the lab in class. So I lecture for about an hour. We may do some hands-on work, and then there's another hour and a half left that students can work on the lab. So you really need to be kind of setting aside, I would say, a minimum of 6 hours a week for this class. And at the end of the term, feel free to tell me how much you actually spend, because I would love to know what that looks like. Okay, let's see. Okay, so here's the do not contact me through Lane email. I get so many emails during the day, and I just get sort of overwhelmed and I don't look at them, and then I can't find student email in amongst all the other junk junk mail and not important mail and important mail. So the best thing to do is use Moodle Message. I look at Moodle Message at least every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes more often. Friday at noon, I'm kind of checking out for the weekend. So if you have a question, getting to me earlier in the week is going to be better than waiting until Friday night. Because if you email me Friday night and say that the lab isn't working for you, or you had some catastrophe, I'm not going to see it until Monday morning, and that's going to be probably too late to give you too much help. Just a reminder that emails or messages in Moodle Messages can sound pretty snarky and rude. We're all busy, and so sometimes we just get really short and abrupt. So it's good practice to say hi. You know, hi Lynn, good morning Lynn. When you're done, thanks, this is Joe, or you know, have a good day, Mary. Just some kind of greeting and closing. This is probably what grade 3 manners class. Avoid sarcasm, but because we tend to be kind of short and brief, just assume that people didn't mean to be sarcastic or rude when you read that, especially me, because sometimes I'll email back and say, yes, do it that way, and, you know, thanks, Lynn. So it may sound like I'm impatient, but usually I'm not. You do need to include the class name, so you need to put good morning, GIS151 or GIS141. Oh, I can see I need to fix that right now. That would be confusing. GIS151. Just make sure that you tell me which class you're in, and because if I get a student who says, "Hi, I didn't understand the questions on quiz 1." For one, I don't know which of the 3 classes you're talking about, because all of them have a quiz. And then if I did know, I don't know which question you're talking about. So I need you to be really specific. And actually, if you can tell me why you think that answer is incorrect or graded incorrectly, that really helps me help you. Okay. When we get into DesktopGIS, as I said before, you can come into the lab and get the labs done. I do find that students who can access the software at home on their own time, it's just like anything. When you have time to practice and really look at it, you just get better at it. So that's my 2 cents there. The exams, actually the first exam is in 2 parts. There's a written part that you have to take in class if you're an in-class student, or from a testing center or proctor if you're an online student. And then there is a skills part of the exam, and the skills part is open book, open note. You can do that on your own time. The written part of the exam, the geographic content, is not open book and open note. If you're taking this from a proctor and not from Lane, and by the way, you can take it at Cottage Grove or Florence, you need to arrange an approved proctor. And so here's a link that will take you to the proctoring site that tells you how to get a proctor, because your proctor has to contact our testing service, then they contact me, and then I contact your proctor with the passwords and all that information. So get on that as soon as you can. I think we did teaching methods more than once, but anyway, we'll go through that. Let's go through. I'll post the open lab times as soon as I hire somebody. And if you have some computer experience, I'm looking for someone who can keep the lab open as a student work study, so contact me. Okay, I will not accept any late work. What I will do is substitute your lowest quiz grade. No, I will substitute your highest quiz grade for your lowest quiz grade. Things happen, most everything is going to be open at least a week before it's due, probably more like 3 or 4 weeks before it's due. So you can definitely work ahead. I may not grade it until everybody else's is in. That keeps me a little more honest. Not honest, consistent. Let me rephrase that. Keeps me more consistent. But I will do that for your assignment, and I will do that for a quiz. I'll substitute. However, sometimes the labs are progressive. So if you miss one, it's really difficult to do the second lab. For example, this week. So there is an introductory lab that is due Friday at noon, and the quiz on the first week's content that's due Friday at noon. If you decide not to do those and jump in and do lab 1, you're going to have to do the introductory lab anyway, because you can't do lab 1 without doing the introductory lab. But I did want you to have an option of going through that introductory lab step by step to see if this is the kind of thing that you want to do or can do before it's too late for you to make a change in your schedule. So week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, there's a quiz due on Friday and a lab due on Monday morning at 8 o'clock. Oh no, here we go. Monday morning. Okay, there's only one change. I have to have the Monday morning at 8 because I have to drop you by noon. The rest of them are due Monday night. Okay, so and then I will hopefully get them graded and information back to you by Tuesday or Wednesday. On week 5, there is an exam. Your first exam is open on Saturday of week 4 and Monday and Tuesday of week 5. So you've got 3 days to take that. And the GPS lab is not, that information will not be on the exam. The exam is only going to cover the content in weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, when we get into week 6, you'll notice that we start doing 2 labs. And there is no quiz on week 5. I combined that with week 6 because it just seemed really unfair to give you an exam and a quiz on the same week. So at this point then, labs are due Thursday morning and Monday night. So lab 6 is due 9 a.m. on Thursday. And then lab 7, you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday to finish that lab. Same with lab 8 and 9, and then lab 10 and 11. And then we finish the content with lab 12. And on week 10, there is a final exam. 75% of the exams will come from weeks 5 through 9, and 25% of the exam will come from the first exam. Okay, and then the hands-on portion of the end of the class is a final project that I will introduce probably in week 10, where you will go out and collect some data and put it together in a map. So it's a short turnaround, and definitely something you can start earlier, but we'll talk about that. And it's usually a pretty fun thing for students to work on. I have a little blurb about student conduct, so make sure you take a look at that. And so then let's take a look here at the due date page. So hopefully I've got this, so when we start with lab 6 due on Thursday, lab 7, lab 8, lab 9. The only difference on the quiz is over the Thanksgiving holiday. Usually we have quizzes on Friday, and I decided that was cruel and unusual, and so I would make that due on Monday as well, so that you don't have to try to work while you're traveling or suffering from, tryptophan from the turkey, something like that. Okay, so hopefully that's will help you. There's a student announcement forum, and I'm going to move this down every week into the week that we're working in. Check that frequently, because if I get somebody who says, hey, the website you sent us isn't working, I may have a workaround for that, and I will put an announcement. So check that. And sometimes students get a notice that those announcements have been posted, but sometimes they don't, and I'm not sure exactly how those work. So if you are taking this as an online student, here is the video lecture excuse me, that I will be giving, similar to this, in class, the first week of class. This is the list of terms that I want you to be able to define and understand. Here are some discussion questions that I would like you to be able to answer. So I would copy and paste those in a Word document and then actually answer them. This is the reading for week 1. So it's a PDF reading. I've gotten readings from different textbooks and sources. So this is the first reading. And then you're going to be working the first couple weeks with what's called a story map. And so this is some information about how story maps are used in many different fields. So the actual labs are embedded in the assignment link. So if I click onto the intro lab, here is ArcGIS Online, and your first lab has you set up a GIS account. You're going to need this this year if you're taking all the classes, so make sure you have a good password and recognize your login information. A lot of students are accessing this through, they have a Facebook option and a Gmail option, and I don't use that. I just actually set up my own password, and so I'm not sure why I don't, but I don't. Anyway, so you're going to create a public account. The dots are kind of steps you need to take. I have a couple little short videos that may help you get started with this if you get stuck. And then you're going to create a map, and you're going to set the map to share publicly, and then you're going to take that map and embed it in a web map or a web presentation application. And so when you're finished, let me go to here, you're going to send me a URL, a nice short little URL, and what I should have is one tab for the introductory lab. So here is an example of my introductory lab. I have an introduction of myself. I have a map that I use a map as a location map where I visited this summer. I embedded an image, and I have citations for that map. Lab 1 is going to ask you to create a thematic map and a reference map and discuss the elements of each of those kinds of maps. So I'm going to go back here. And so when you create your Lab 1, you'll have one tab, and by the time you are finished with Lab 2, which I haven't uploaded yet, you will have 2 tabs for that. Okay, and so we'll be using ArcGIS Online for several of these labs, as well as other software. let's see, is there anything else I can think of? Oh, so when we get into week 6, which I have not opened for you, that's when we're going to start using DesktopGIS. When we use DesktopGIS, I'm going to have to send you the license file number. So I have to send you a student evaluation number that allows you to download and install the software on your computer. I would say 80% of the students, this works fine. And another 10% of those have a small glitch. And then I've got 10% where they are never able to download it. And so at that point, they've been coming into the lab to work. So when I contact you with those numbers, and that will probably be sometime in the beginning of week 5, I want to give you, I might even do it in week 4, go ahead and give you that software so you have a couple weeks to troubleshoot that and get your software loaded for the last half of the term. Let's see. I have a list of units. People should know this stuff, and if you don't, this is something you can memorize. It's pretty standard units of measure that you should have. I also have some short videos when we get into DesktopGIS that talks about some of the concepts that we run into or problems that we run into in ArcGIS. So that's a nice place to check when we get there. And then some people have things they want to do that are above and beyond. So I had a couple little mini labs when people say, well, how do I make my own data in ArcGIS? So I have some mini labs, just things that have come up, but we'll have more of that later. I also added a student sharing forum. And so any of you can post something. I won't generally check these. But it's not intended as a place to complain or whatever, but it is a place if you find a really cool website or you're having trouble and you want to see if anybody else is having trouble, or you want to help each other with stuff through here, that's fine. That's a great place to kind of, it should be a good safe place to post comments and fun things that you find related to GIS. And I can post in here too. Just if I find, sometimes there'll be job announcements or cool maps or things that don't relate to the class specifically. All right, so I think the course is open. I think you can get started with that. I would start sooner than later and just make sure this is what you want to spend your time on this term and that you actually can be successful. So if you really are struggling with that first lab and the quiz, then come talk to me early and we'll see kind of if I can help with that. See how it goes. Okay, good luck.